Hello, everybody. There's many different types of leaderships and leadership theories. Some of the more prominent are the trait theory and the behavioral theory. What we've learned is that each is applicable in a unique time and a unique place, though some theories can coexist at the same time. One of the more interesting and one that has shown itself a good predictor of great success is the situational theory of leadership, which means that at the right time in the right place, a person can showcase their leadership abilities and can make some profound change. There's a couple of individuals that may help showcase the value and importance of this theory. Winston Churchill comes to mind. Winston Churchill was someone who was not doing well prior to World War II. At one point, he was seen as a potential prime minister, but through a series of issues and mistakes, he never made it to the top until Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler arose during the 1930s, and by 1939, pressure was unabated that this person could be a destructive force in our world. Winston Churchill was the one that beat the drums that this person must be stopped, and at the right time, he became prime minister and led the world to save itself from the perils of Adolf Hitler. And some say he saved the world for democracy. Certainly a great legacy. There's also Rudolph Giuliani in 9/11. He was a mayor of New York City, finishing his term. He was going to run for Senate, but had a personal scandal that prevented him from doing so. All intents and purposes, he was not at the height of his popularity. However, 9/11 happened, and his response to that event, his leadership abilities, calm, collected, decisive, earned him a generation of appreciation from not only those in New York City, but throughout the United States and indeed the world. That year, he was Time Magazine's Person of the Year because of the way that he led the nation in the response to the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Nelson Mandela comes to mind, certainly one of the greats of the 20th century. He spent decades in prison fighting the oppressive regime in South Africa. He wanted equal rights. He wanted fair rights. And that's what I also say about equal rights, is it's really just fair, human rights, rather than civil rights. It's human rights. It's basic decency. He thought everybody should be treated the same. We're all inhabitants of this earth, and therefore we should be treated as such. He was released from prison and ran for president of his country. He was elected president. And one of the great things about Nelson Mandela is he didn't seek revenge for the decades in prison. He thought that he should move past that and try to create a country that is better than the way he was treated in prison, or that he was treated when the others were in power. It's a great legacy. And the last is Billie Jean King, tennis player. It may seem odd to be on this list. This was a time when women didn't have the same rights as others. And she fought for equal pay and equal access to what the men were receiving on the tennis tour. Her legacy far is beyond just women's tennis, but it's women's sports in general. And for every athlete in college and beyond that is trying to seek equal representation and fairness in following their athletic prowess, they can thank Billie Jean King for what she did. In fact, the U.S. Open, the tennis facilities, is named after Billie Jean King. Those are four people who the situation arose and it showcased their unique abilities as a leader. They certainly changed the direction of not just their industry and not just their country, but many throughout the world. And for that, we're grateful. That's situational leadership. Take care, everybody.